So what would it look like for you if it were different? If you didn't have that responsibility and if they weren't leaning on you, what would your life look like? What would you be doing?
Oh, I would have soared higher.
You think so?
Absolutely. I feel like I'm angry at everybody in my family. I don't like my family. If they weren't my family, it wouldn't be my friends.
Y'all, Toni Braxton didn't just hold the mic. She held the entire Braxton legacy on her shoulders. And now Sis is finally speaking on what fans have whispered about for years. She was the money, the muscle, and the emotional glue. And the weight of it? It's been breaking her down inside and out. Since childhood, Toni was pushed into adulthood, performing, providing, protecting, while everybody else enjoyed the spotlight from the safest seat in the house. Front row. Hands clean. Benefits rolling in. Meanwhile, Toni kept the whole ship afloat. Behind the polished image of Braxton family values was a storm of jealousy, entitlement, and a family so dependent on Toni that they forgot she was human too. She's even calling out Trina and Towanda for crossing major boundaries, taking from her, draining her peace, and still making her feel like she wasn't doing enough. Because while the world celebrated this strong sisterhood, Toni was sinking under the pressure, expected to feed, fund, fix, and emotionally babysit everybody while she barely had anything left for herself. Everybody knows the Braxtons are back on our screens, and honey, it is messy. From the outside, Toni Braxton always looked flawless. The voice, the awards, the glamour, the icon status. But behind those trophies and glossy magazine covers, Sis was struggling. She was smiling for the cameras while quietly hating the life she was trapped in. But before we dive into the chaos, let's put some respect on Miss Toni Braxton's name. Before half of y'all were even born, Toni was already dominating the industry, sweeping up Grammys, shutting down the charts, redefining R&B, and financially lifting a family that treated her success like it was a group project they all passed without doing any work. Call her an artist if you want, but she's a certified legend.
A little more difficult. Sometimes I wake up every morning and I go, wow, did I dream it? Did I dream it? And I have to remind myself, no, she's gone, but she's been here with us for 50 years. So I try to relish in that moment and I try to smile about it and just be grateful for the time you have. And you have to always remember to be kind to one another. We're sisters, so we're always going to fight. That's what sisters do, okay? It's the rite of passage to fuss and fight.
7 Grammys, over 70 million records sold, and a voice that hits your soul whether you're in a nightclub or a church pew. And yet, after selling more than $170 million worth of music, Sis ended up with $1,972 to her name. You read that right. Less than $2,000. Let that sink in. It all began back in Severn, Maryland, 6 kids, a gospel-singing mother, and a house full of dreams. Toni was the oldest, and when her mom suffered a major back injury, everything shifted. Childhood ended overnight. She became the substitute parent, the caretaker, the one cooking, cleaning, and making sure those kids were good while her father worked nonstop trying to keep the household together. Toni has said it herself. Around age 13 or 14, she became the mom. A whole teenager forced into responsibility before she even figured out who she was. Then the 90s hit.
The burden on you is the one that made it out. But you gotta be willing to let them fly.
I feel like I do. I feel like they don't let me.
Unbreak my heart, breathe again. The world falling at her feet, and the energy at home changed real quick. Instead of celebrating her wins, her own sisters allegedly started treating her like an ATM with legs. Toni recently opened up about just how drained she was, emotionally and financially. She wasn't just carrying the Braxton name, she was carrying Braxton bills, Braxton car notes, Braxton rent, Braxton emergencies, and every Braxton business idea that flopped before it even got off the ground. If something needed funding, Toni was the bank. She didn't call out everyone directly, but it was pretty clear Trina and Towanda were high on that list. According to her, they didn't just expect emotional support, they wanted checks. They wanted to get paid to work with her. Meanwhile, Tamar, as loud and dramatic as she can be, was the only one helping without expecting a dime. Now that is loyalty. There was even a moment where Tamar sent backup singers for free, while Trina was sending invoices. And yes, Towanda was her assistant and got paid, but even then she wasn't really supporting Toni the way Toni supported everyone else. But the hardest hit came when Toni said, "I could have soared higher if I didn't have to carry so much." And honestly, she's right. Imagine the life she could have lived if she wasn't dragged down by everyone else's weight. But this family feud is just getting started, because what began as one sister's heartbreak is turning into a full-blown Braxton vault explosion. Secrets, lies, drama, and receipts Tamar hinted at years ago. Now let's talk about the storm inside Toni's life, because when it rains for her, it pours in hurricane form. This wasn't cute little celebrity stress. This was emotional, financial, and physical chaos all happening while she was fighting to stay relevant in a brutal music industry. And during her darkest moments, people took advantage of her. Straight up played in her face. And if you think selling $170 million worth of records meant she had a cushy bank account, prepare yourself. Toni wasn't even earning dollars. She was earning literal pennies. About 35 cents per album. Imagine being the superstar of your label and still living like you're broke. When she finally had enough and sued her label in 1998, the retaliation was quick. 8 weeks later, she had to file for bankruptcy. And let's be clear, this wasn't from shopping sprees. It was because her contract forced her to pay back the label for everything: travel, studios, outfits, music videos. She was basically financing her own music career and getting nothing back. People didn't realize how bad it was until her infamous interview with Oprah, which became one of the most disastrous moments of her career. Instead of empathy, she got judgment. Cold, condescending questions that made her look irresponsible instead of exploited. Toni was expecting understanding, and she got embarrassment on national TV. And the kicker? Rumor has it Oprah even warned Toni's label ahead of time that Toni might expose them. Like, who does that? But that moment flipped the narrative against Toni and made her struggles look like her own fault, when in reality, she was drowning in a system designed to use her. Instead of showing compassion to a woman clearly drowning, it seemed like Oprah was more invested in protecting corporate executives than the sister sitting across from her. That interview didn't just bruise Toni's image, it knocked her career off track. Still, Toni tried to rise again. But then 2010 came swinging, and life hit her with another gut punch. That's when she was diagnosed with microvascular angina and lupus, conditions that forced her to shut down her high-paying Las Vegas residency. And if that wasn't enough, her insurance refused to cover the cancellation. So guess who got stuck footing the bill? Yep, Toni. Every production cost, every hotel room, every paycheck for dancers and musicians, all of it came out of her own pocket. It was financial devastation on top of emotional exhaustion. And just like that, she was back in bankruptcy court for a second time. Just when she began trying to breathe again, the IRS and the California Franchise Tax Board came knocking in 2010 like debt collectors in a crime movie. According to reports, the IRS filed a lien on December 4th for over $340,000 in unpaid taxes. Days later, California hit her with another lien for more than $116,000, pushing her total debt to almost $500,000. And both agencies made it clear: pay up or risk losing property. It's insane when you think about it. How does a woman who's still touring, still performing, still an icon end up trapped in the same financial nightmare again and again? Well, insiders say it wasn't just industry exploitation or illness. Toni was carrying an entire family on her shoulders. Toni even admitted publicly, "None of my siblings helped me take care of our mother, except nobody stepped in to cover something as small as their mother's car insurance unless Toni handled it." And when the family reality show started filming, the tension exploded. Her sisters were allegedly upset that Toni and Tamar were being paid more, even though Toni was literally the reason the show existed. Things reportedly got so heated the production had to pause. Toni walked off set, furious, and said she was done. And honestly, can anyone blame her? After decades of illness, bad contracts, exploitation, and family drama, she's still standing. But what shape is she standing in? And speaking of drama, let's zoom in on the sister feud. We're talking about grown women in their late 40s and 50s, still arguing like it's lunch hour in high school. Money is just the tip of the iceberg. These sisters genuinely do not like each other sometimes. How they ever filmed a show together is a psychological study waiting to happen. Things in the Braxton household have taken a dark turn. From blocking each other on social media to straight up calling the whole family toxic, the tension is eating everyone alive, including Toni, who's officially checked out. Before Tracy passed away, the sisters promised they'd keep the peace for her. But that promise evaporated fast. According to reports, Toni is over the mess, like, done. Word is none of her sisters bothered to show up to Tamar's cooking show premiere. Not one. And why? Because a huge fight blew up 2 days beforehand. Right after that, Towanda started posting subliminal messages like, "To everyone who distanced themselves from me, stay there." And it didn't end there. Towanda married her longtime partner, Sean Hall, after 9 years. Toni and Trina stood as her bridesmaids, but Tamar? She didn't even show up. So yeah, some sisters are picking sides, and the divide is getting deeper. Then there was the moment during their reality show reunion when someone asked Towanda why she didn't reach out to Tamar. Before Towanda could even answer, Tamar jumped in, saying Towanda doesn't care about her at all, that Tamar is always the one reaching out, and Towanda only contacts her when the cameras are rolling. Towanda fired back, saying she has no interest in pouring into certain energies anymore. Translation? She's done giving Tamar grace. "I don't engage," she said. "I protect my peace, my home, my kids, my man." It's wild because for years, Towanda played the calm, level-headed sister. But now fans think she's been harboring resentment all along. People claim she relied heavily on Toni during her divorce and financial troubles, and now that she's stable, she's suddenly distant. Toni's silence says a lot too. It's giving. "I held you down when you needed me. Where were you when I needed you?" Fans online are picking sides and going crazy with opinions. Some say Towanda has always been jealous of Tamar's success. Others believe Tamar is the real problem. But what makes it worse is that the drama isn't staying between them. It's spilling everywhere, dragging Toni into emotional exhaustion that could be impacting her health. Another fan wrote, "Toni deserves so much more than what she's gotten." And then there was the comment that really hit home. Asterisk, this all goes back to their parents, especially their mother. She deserves part of the blame. Because before we move forward, we need to pause and talk about Tracy and the true emotional price the Braxton family paid for fame. If we're being completely honest, the deepest wound in this entire Braxton saga wasn't the money, the contracts, or the feuds. It was Tracy. Before she passed in 2022, Tracy Braxton had lived through decades of hurt, the kind you don't just bounce back from. Y'all remember how she was excluded from those early music deals because she got pregnant? Yeah, that kind of pain doesn't just fade. And even though she carried herself with strength and cracked jokes to keep the peace, everyone could feel that she never fully healed from that moment. But the reality was this. They signed in August, and Tracy was pregnant with her son, Kevin Jr., and back in the 90s, the industry was ruthless. A pregnant woman wasn't considered marketable. Labels wanted women who could make fans want to be them or be with them. And pregnancy didn't fit that image. Towanda even said she and Trina didn't want to sign without Tracy, but Tracy told them, "Go ahead." That hurt seeped into Tracy and Toni's relationship in ways deeper than TV ever captured. It wasn't normal sister arguments. It wasn't petty jealousy. It was layered trauma, love mixed with disappointment, resentment wrapped in loyalty, and years of feelings nobody knew how to unpack. There was love, absolutely. But it was a love that had been cracked, stretched, and bruised by years of miscommunication, missed chances, and unresolved bitterness. And now that Tracy is gone, all of that unfinished emotional business sits heavy in the room like a shadow, reminders of conversations that never happened, apologies that were never spoken, and pain that never fully healed. So when Toni talks about feeling depleted emotionally, financially, spiritually, it's not just about money being drained. It's about the emotional burden she's been carrying for decades. Guilt, unresolved grief, the weight of responsibility, the ache of losing a sister whose heart she never truly got to mend with. This whole Braxton family value saga is something else, y'all. What started as a win for the brand, the fame, the hype, the booming ratings, was secretly tearing that family apart from the inside. Think about it. You're already dealing with real family issues, and suddenly there's a camera in your face capturing every crack,